Good morning, everybody. Thousands of people have gathered to hear the Tanya of today, and we're honored that you came to the holy city of Tzfat to hear today's Tanya. So basically, this is a very critical Tanya. Why? Because most of the world, basically there are only three ways to look at life. There's the paganistic way, hedonistic way, which is that this world is reality. So whether a person believes in some kind of gods or karma, or they even believe in science or whatever, the way things function, what they're basically saying is that this world, let eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may die. The world that I see is the world, and that's it. There's another way of looking at the world, and that's kind of, if you want to call it, the monotheistic faiths. The monotheistic faiths divide things already into a moral structure. Some things are good and some things are bad. And then they have ways in which God will either reward you or punish you, which could very well be true. There's heaven and hell or whatever. But effectively, the way they're seeing the world is they're saying, okay, the world is really a spiritual choices. You know, if you marry versus not, if you do this deed versus not, then you are good. If you don't do this, you are bad. And there's obviously a lot of truth to that, yet it's also a fundamental error. Why? Because, and I think where do you see this most? I'm not trying to offend, I have many Catholic friends, but you see this in the Catholic Church. Why? Because the Catholic Church looks at, in fact, the thing that is most important for a human life, and the first mitzvah of the Torah to have children, as a weakness of man. And so therefore, the priests don't, and the nuns, they don't get married. And effectively, the world, today, we know that the birth rates are down, and there are many Western countries that are going to disappear within 100 years because simply they have an elder population, and they've crossed the point of no return. And in fact, the only two groups in the world that are having enough children when they have access to the pill, and they still choose to have the children, is the evangelical Christians and the Orthodox Jews. Everybody else, including Catholics, when they get access to the pill, they stop having these children, unfortunately, and the world itself can't continue. So there has to be a third way of looking at life in which we don't separate between good and evil in such a radical way, but we look at life in a different perspective. And this is the true way, and this is the Jewish mystical way, and that is to say that there are three dimensions to reality. There's not two dimensions of good and evil, there are three dimensions to reality. One is the dimension of good, and that is the dimension of God and everything God tells us, and practically what's good and kind. The second dimension, let's say, is the dimension of evil. That is everything that goes against God and that is truly evil, let's say harming, etc., etc. But there's a third dimension, and that's the world itself, your body itself, the neutral dimension. So whereas, let's say, in the example of the Catholic Church, they're saying you have to stay away from the body is bad. We say, no, the body is neutral. It's like a piece of paper. Is it good or is it bad? Well, it depends what you're going to write on it. Water, good or bad, depends what you're going to use it for. Everything in the world, money, there's this saying that money is the root of all evil. No, it depends what you're using the money for. So this way of looking at life, it's much more about that this world is a canvas that I have to paint God on. And when you look at the world in that way, then you realize that this world is God's home. It's just up to me to build it. And this is the key idea of Hasidus, really Hasidus Chabad, what it brings to the world, is that we don't look at this world in a bad, good way. We look at the world more like it is a canvas. I am an artist, and the paintbrush is the Torah and the mitzvahs, and I am painting this world into God's home. L'chaim v'levracha.